Okay, good morning, everyone. We're just going to give it a few more minutes for folks to filter in here. It's just turned 10 o'clock Pacific time, so let's give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you're coming in from. Thank you for joining us today for a quick 30 minutes, but it should be less, webinar regarding Qubes license management and why you need a license management tool. Hopefully today we'll give you some information about some of the aspects of the tool that we've created, which is called Qubes, as well as sort of rethink perhaps your own processes and how things how you're organizing licenses and subscriptions within your organization. I'm going to start with a quick slideshow, and I promise I won't take too long on that, and then we'll get directly into the to the web portal. So with that, I am going to share my screen and we will get started. Second here. Okay. It's best to start at the beginning. So the name of our product is called Qubes. It's a software license management tool. It's a simplified approach to licensing your some of your software licenses within your organization. And really, we've designed this from a few years of really talking to our customers and trying to understand how they're organizing their licenses at the moment. And we've heard sort of everything across the board, from manually doing it to complex sort of SAM solutions or big pieces of software that can handle different types of software acquisition and software asset management, all the way through to SharePoint groups and all that sort of stuff. So we really accumulated a bunch of different information and designed this tool based on that feedback, which I think you'll find is a tool that that's very simple to use, very user friendly, and really fits into a pretty easy workflow. So there isn't a long onboarding process. There certainly isn't a long learning process to get to use the tool, and hopefully we'll highlight during this presentation today. Before we get into that demo, we want to sort of talk about how we categorize a license. Obviously, the traditional sense of a license, as it relates to software, is a something that we're all accustomed to. We've had them for many decades, and then recently there's been sort of this shift. Well, not recently, perhaps over the last decade or so, there's been this shift, and certainly through the last couple of years, subscriptions have sort of started to play a dominant role, not only in our personal lives but professional lives too. Everything is a subscription. Everything has a renewal date. Everything has a certain term associated with it. And what we found, and what our customers have found, is that managing all these renewals and this sort of democratization of IT, where everybody's buying these different tools from different departments, it can be overwhelming. And certainly keeping track of those assets and managing them in a centralized fashion has become a little overwhelming too. So when we talk about licenses and when we talk about Qubes specifically, we sort of use the term licenses in a bit more of a looser fashion. We're sort of talking about the traditional licenses, but also the subscriptions, the renewals, the software as a service solutions that you may subscribe to, even all the way down to a domain or a SSL certificate, perhaps even warranties on hardware that has a specific start and end date, some sorts of contracts within the organization that has specific criteria, but it falls within a certain date range. So all these things we can accumulate into a central portal, into the Qubes portal, and sort of get a level of transparency and centralization to it that perhaps you may not have had previously. So how are we doing it right now? And I sort of touched on this just a second ago, but what we're seeing, the overwhelming number of folks is using Excel, and Excel isn't a broken process. It's just a familiar process. They throw things into Excel. Perhaps as the fiscal years go over, they'll cut and paste their license assets and sort of mark them off over the years. Perhaps you're using Outlook or another email client to give you reminders, to set reminders up when things are due. That in combination with Excel is a fairly common scenario where you're keeping the ledger part of the system in Excel and the reminder part of the system within Outlook. Perhaps you're recognizing or utilizing vendors. So there's vendor relationship here, or the vendors that you're working on. We all know that vendors aren't shy about asking you to renew their product, so you're waiting on them to send you that renewal notification, and then that combined with Outlook and Excel, you've got this piecemeal system together. And then on the other end of the spectrum, perhaps you're using a tool that's a module of a bigger software application, a bigger software asset management application, and typically license management, keeping track of these renewals. When things are coming up for renewal are a module within that. But what we're finding for the customer base that we're providing is sometimes these are overwhelming. These are complex systems that do require resource, not only human power, but also a cost associated with them to keep them up and running, to keep them talking to all the different systems within the organization. And that was really the genesis of the product is we wanted to take these systems that are disparate and which are separate and combine them into a centralized portal where you can easily add licenses, where you can easily track licenses, and you can easily get notified on renewal dates under a criteria that you specify. And that's the idea behind Qubes, and that's what we're going to show you today. So just a quick brief overview. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm going to be demoing this part, but we wanted to make it user friendly. We wanted to make it so it perhaps doesn't need to be an application specifically for IT. Yes, it's carrying IT resources, and yes, you might keep it within the IT world, but you don't have to be a technician or a system administrator or have an in-depth knowledge of tech in general to be able to manage this. We want it to be a visual dashboard. We wanted to have it be very user-friendly, and so we've created this with that in mind. We also wanted a reporting aspect. We wanted to have a quick hit on where you can see your assets lie within the organization, how much you're spending, what's coming up this month, what's coming up next month, and have all that in a comprehensive dashboard. And then there's the actual action of creating, renewing licenses or adding documents or adding alerts. We wanted to make that process easy. So we've created this a centralized living, breathing document, this ledger that keeps all your assets in one central location, but also gives you quick hit action items or icons to be able to renew these licenses or do any other actions against them that you need to do. And then thirdly, we wanted to create the ability to alert you. So we wanted to combine that Outlook reminder functionality with the central ledger functionality of Excel, right? Excel, unless you're using it online, is typically a static document. Yes, you can share it. Yes, there is co-collaboration, which can sometimes get a little messy. But we wanted to be able to combine those two aspects, the organizational aspects of Excel with the alerting aspects of Outlook into one system, and be able to communicate with you in a cadence that you prefer. And we were super conscious about the fact that notifications, I mean, let's be blunt, are quite annoying. We wanted to make sure the notifications were set up in a way that you control, that you're getting these notifications on a cadence that you prefer, and that you can snooze or dismiss these notifications at your leisure, which I'll demo during the demo here in a second. I'm going to send this presentation out. I think this is a good sort of visual into terms of where Cubes kind of fits in. We sort of, it's a very good system from folks that are using it from a personal level. I actually use it for personal level too. All my subscriptions that I have at the house, but it scales up real well too with the role level access and some of the security and compliance built into the solution too. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and log into the system here. This is a demo site. I'm going to access it as an administrator. So I did briefly touch on the fact that you can create role level access. So in case you do want to grant access out to different departments or different folks that might be responsible for some of those licenses, you can do that. So when they log in, they have their own profile, they have their own license asset that they're responsible for, and the alerts and visuals will be representative of what their responsibility is. This will all filter into a sort of a master ledger, which the super admin will have access to. So just for this demo, I'm going to log in as the super admin here. So the first page you see is the visual representation of your information. This is customizable depending on how you want the data to be presented. But we wanted to present you with something that allows you to get to the information as quickly as possible. So after the brief onboarding process, which is very, very simple, and your licenses are in here, you're going to have this dashboard that's just going to categorize these licenses in a few different ways. The top cubes up here are predefined filters, so you quickly know what's coming up next month or this month or all of them. You can create other ones here for your particular profile depending on what you want to see. You can see here I've got 36 past due, which perhaps isn't the most realistic realistic cube here, but it's going to show you the things that are past due so you can attend to them straight away. And then below, you're going to get the graphical representation of the actual data itself. So you can see how much you're spending by vendor, by type. So perhaps it's a maintenance item or a subscription or an SSL or a warranty, as I've mentioned, or a contract, insurance documents, folks putting insurance documents in here and getting alerted because you can attach documents to the actual record itself. To the right, we'll see some of the licenses broken down by product, by department. Again, if this is not the way you categorize licenses within your organization, this is flexible enough to be able to change this, and perhaps you do it by manager or by group or by budget item, and have this data sliced in a way that makes sense to your organization. And then below we have payment methods and terms. What is your most common length of term that you enter into a vendor with? 12 months in this demo seems to be the big one here. But it's going to automatically categorize these so you can see exactly where you are and where your licenses stand by these specific filters. Moving over to the licenses ledger here, this is the central ledger for your licensing, all your software licenses. This is a living, breathing document. This is up to date with all the information that you require throughout the course of a fiscal year. They're color coded on the left-hand side here. There's a few different colors depending on the status of that particular license. Obviously, red is expired, green is active. We also have a pending state if you were to renew early, and a renewed state showing that that license is still under contract, but you've actively renewed it, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. And then we've categorized these columns by the most common that we see, and these can be changed as well. So you see the vendor here, the product, when it expires, the department it's associated to, the type of licenses is, and then the total cost of those licenses. Now, the total cost is calculated by unit times quantity, which is when you enter a license into the system, it'll ask you for a unit price. This is good for these licenses, which are typically bought monthly, but you perhaps buy it for an annual agreement. Most software applications now, certainly within the productivity and collaboration space, are monthly, and those can change depending on what that vendor decides to pack inside those SKUs. But you can keep an individual unit cost, which we think is good practice because you can see that fluctuate or perhaps go up over the years, and you'll have some historical context to pull some pretty powerful insights as you start shopping around for vendors and things like that. So if I was to add a license here, I have a number of different items that I can put onto that license record. Again, you can change these terms depending on what suits your needs. We actually have an organization that's tracking actual computers. So they changed the account and invoice to MAC address and IP address to keep track of them. And then they would upload their warranty contract against that record and have everything centralized from there. But out of the box, you've got vendor, product, account and invoice and PO number, a definitive term here, the unit cost and the quantity and the total. For folks that just calculate things globally and don't track global costs, just put a quantity one and then the total cost here. The payment method, how you prefer to pay it. And then some additional information to further get insights of that information, of that data down the road. You can also add comments and contract details and items like that. If I go over to my actions menu over here, you'll notice that I'll have a few different things I can do with different licenses, depending on the state of that license. If I want to come in here and renew it, I simply click renew, and it's going to pre-populate everything and just put it forward on a 12-month term. In fact, it's going to, if that was originally a 36-month term, it would create another 36-month term. So it's just pushing it a year or 3 years or whatever that term is into the future. All you need to do is hit save. If you want to add an invoice number or a PO number, you can do that here. But we try to make it very quick in terms of renewing licenses. Once you hit save, it's going to create a sort of a child license. Because this is still valid until the end of this year, this is going to go into a pending state and this will go to renewed. Once this date hits, this will replace this item and become an active license within your ledger. It'll turn to green. This will be archived, so you have some historical reference for that. So it's a very automated system in that sense. All you need to do is hit the renew button, and then it'll automatically pull that through. Now, if you want to change anything, you can certainly do that too. If you wanted to change the quantity, change the cost, change the the number of the term length, you can certainly do that. What we typically say is when you want to do that is you want to edit that license, and that's because you always want to preserve the initial license record for historical purposes. Each license that you put into the system, each record that you put into the system will be saved indefinitely, so you can track back on that. And if you see fluctuations with cost or term or quantity, we want to have a reference point that we started from. And so rather than renewing and just changing it, we say go ahead and edit that license, and it'll still be tied to that parent license, but it'll show you some historical context. Now, say for example you wanted to you're really happy with this archive social, the social media archiver, not particularly happy with the vendor, and you need to change vendors. You still want the historical reference to Archive Social. You've done business with Archive Social for perhaps a few years, you've spent a certain amount of money with them, but now it's time to move on to maybe a reseller, but you're using the same product, which often happens. You shop it out, you get a better price. What we say in that situation is to clone this license. That way, everything stays intact, but you can edit the vendor. And so again, it'll be tied to that parent license under the product, but you'll see that historical context through the change of hands as far as the vendor goes. So it gives you some flexibility there, so you can see where you're buying that license from, how much you were spending on that license, and with who over the course of your usage of that specific SKU. Qubes also has this Dropbox type functionality. You can add documents to these license records, right? So we've tried to combine the ledger system of Excel, the Outlook reminder system, which I'll show you in just a moment, but also the file sharing and the Dropbox, or the document storing of your file share within the system itself. So really bringing these three systems together to create a centralized platform for all these contracts and licenses. So you can add documents fairly easily. You just click on the documents uploads, add these documents, and they'll be tied to this particular record. There's no limit on that. So we've had folks upload emails. We've had folks upload contracts, documents, whatever it is, POs, invoices. You can do all that within the system, and then start organizing your alerts based off the specific record, and that individual who receives those alerts will be clued in pretty quickly to where everything stands. And then alerts. So the real sort of meat and potatoes of the system is the alerts, the automation on their alerts. And we've separated them into two categories. In fact, three categories, but two main categories. We've got the default alert. The default alert, every single license within the organization will be subject to a default alert. That means that every week you're going to get a report from Qubes saying these licenses are due within the next 30 days. You can set that up to be delivered to anybody. You can also remove it entirely if you don't want an alert. But every license within a 30-day period will be included within that specific alert if the expiration is within 30 days. That's the default alert. Now, they'll be removed from that alert if you've renewed it, or if you've deactivated it, or you've just removed the alert from that, but they'll just be included into that. Additionally, you get the ability to create custom alerts. Now, this is where you can get a little bit more of a heads up onto when licenses are coming up for renewal. So say, for example, something's over a certain dollar amount and you need to go through a buying process. Maybe you need to go out to bid, maybe you need to get 3 quotes, maybe you need to put it out to RFP, maybe it just needs board approval, whatever it is, you need some more time than just 30 days. This way you can filter by, say, cost, anything between $5,000 and $20,000. I need at least 4 months advance, and I need to tell these people, and these people. You can filter those licenses and set up a group alert based on that criteria. That way, you've got some flexibility. It's going to send these notifications out in 4 months, and it's going to give you the ability to send it out within 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, whatever it might be. You can set this cadence to your liking and have these really automated specific alerts sent to the people who are relevant. Once somebody goes into the system and either renews it, deactivates it, or does something to it, they'll be removed from that alert. So there isn't a hands-on alert management process if you've already done something. You're not going to get alerts if you've already renewed that license, for example. So we really wanted to be conscious of alert fatigue or notification fatigue, and understand that once you set this alert, it's a set and forget it. We want to be able to so you can get to that alert, get to that information, and away you go. And then lastly, and really the safety net of all alerts, is a text message, which I find personally quite frustrating when I get, but I know that they're important when I get them. So if you get a notification a text alert is sent 3 days and 1 day prior, prior to the expiration date of that license. And that's only if you haven't done something with that license again. And you can send that to whomever you want, whether it's yourself or some colleagues. Perhaps you're on vacation and you need a backup plan. And that's only if you haven't renewed that license or haven't deactivated that license. The alert will tell you, hey, this is going to expire today, or this is going to expire in a couple of days. So that's kind of the last safety net there. All these are toggled on or off, right? So you can have a system that's completely alert free. By default, we've tried to make it pretty user friendly, so you don't need to manage the alerts too much. You set them up once on a cadence that you require, and away you go. Moving along to the calendar view. The calendar view allows you to sort of see the terms of your license. So you can see here, I can track through the different months and years. I can see what licenses are coming up within the next 12 months here. It's going to be a rotating view of this. I can come over here and have a look at the different licenses. I can actually do everything within this panel that I could do in the previous panel too. So I could come over here and upload documents to it. But this is showing me where my licenses are within the next calendar year. I can filter these based on these months, based on vendor. Again, I can track back a month or over a year, or go forward a month, or go forward a year. I realize I've got 4 minutes left, so let me just go quickly and talk about the upload process. The upload process is fairly simple. There's 2 ways to do it. You can gather all your information and upload it here in no particular format. We have a team that sifts through that information and makes it readable for Qubes and sends you a link with all your information in there. You just basically use this as a drop box and put all the information that you want. We curate it and help you understand it and organize it, and then we onboard you from there. Otherwise, you can download a formatted spreadsheet. It's a template that you would pop your information in, and then just click upload. That takes about 30 seconds to render once you've put them in, and then you'll have the information ready to go from there. So Qubes is built within Azure. It's actually the government community cloud, GCC, within Azure. It does support single sign-on. It does. The reason we decided to build it within Azure is because we wanted some of the compliance as it relates to local government within the US here. So there is the compliance wrap that Azure supports with having it in the GCC tenant. So as you can see, it's a fairly simple application, incredibly user-friendly, and the onboarding process is relatively quick. I did touch on, which I can elaborate on in a later conversation, is role level access. So you can create additional users based on different criteria. So if you want users outside of your department accessing the information, you can lock it down or open it up as much as you'd like. So with the role level access, you can certainly do that. So with that, I'm going to open it up to, actually, you know what, we've actually don't have any time for questions. If you have questions, please feel free to email or call us. We are doing a giveaway, so we're going to provide you with a Starbucks gift card. Actually, Nina will get your information and send it out after this call. I think I managed to wrap it up 1 minute shy. I appreciate everybody's time. I know it was a quick run through, and I'm happy to go through any more details with each of you should you want to. But other than that, many thanks for your time today, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you.